Hello everyone, coming from my Trailmakers air-to-air guided missile tutorial. Today I'll just be doing like a quick video on how to make these missiles and how they work, and just the simples behind making guided missiles in this game. When making missiles in this game, by far the most important thing is the distance sensors, and a lot of the time you don't really want to have a large missile on your plane, so the most effective way to get like a good sort of system of distance sensors on your plane is by having them very compact, and they'll expand outwards later. You make them compact by putting them in a pattern where they don't touch each other, and you can fan them out later with steering hinges. Once you have like the distance sensors in this slightly questionable shape, the next like most important thing you have is to make sure they actually deploy once the missile is released. You do that by first working out which direction the distance sensor is pointing. So in this case, it's pointing into this block right here. So you want to make sure that the green is on the outside of it, so when it's deployed, it goes outwards. Once you've set up all of the steering hinges to make sure the distance sensors fan outwards, this is where the first actual technical piece of the game comes into play. So for now, we just place a placeholder 1x2 block here, and the first actual logic gate, which is a NOR logic gate. You place this down, and then you'll just activate all of the steering hinges. You'll now see that once deployed, it'll drop down this array of distance sensors. This will be used for detecting aircraft later. Once you have the steering hinges and the distance sensors and the NOR gate set up, the next most important thing in this setup is by far the movement of the actual missile. So first of all, you want a gyro to rotate the missile. I'll explain why this is necessary later. Then you just need 2 gyros on the your axis, I think, I might be wrong, and then you just need 2 gyros on the pitch axis. Okay, so the next most important thing is that you want to set up this spinning gyro to your NOR gate. So you just want to activate it there and just have it on max strength. Now the reason we have it so it spins is that right now, if we just launch this, it would only detect things in 4 directions. But by rotating the missile, it now has the entire circle of detection. This is very important for detecting planes in this game. By far, the next most important thing for this missile is turning and movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a space thruster to the back of these 2 gyros. Then I'm going to add 2 AND logic gates behind it. You need these AND logic gates to control the movement of the missile and the direction turning. I'm going to add another space thruster, 2 more AND logic gates, so we have all 4 directions of movement, and this will be the completed copy of the actual thrusters. Now you'll see I've just connected these all to the bodies with flat connectors. You can honestly personally do it however you want. You can use shield blocks, do whatever. That's just what I'm using because it makes the least drag in the game as I know of. Now what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to add in some very simple quantum rudders. Now I use quantum rudders because they change the inertia of the rocket itself when turning with gyros. This is important just because like if you don't add in quantum rudders, it will overshoot like a lot from personal experience, because it just doesn't change the direction of movement without them. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to use the NOR logic gate, and I'm going to attach it to all these AND logic gates. This is important so that when you release the missile, or before you release the missile won't try to turn like while it's still attached to your aircraft. Okay, now that we have the NOR logic gates connected, we're going to have to do the actual turning system of the missile itself. So what you're going to see here is that this distance sensor is pointing to the left of my screen. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make it so that when this is enabled, the actual missile itself is going to turn left. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect this to this AND logic gate. The AND logic gate then is going to connect into these 2 gyros. Now you see the green side is to the left of my screen, meaning that when that is now enabled, when deployed, the missile itself will turn to the left. Now what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to do that with every single distance sensor. You're going to assign them their own AND logic gates. So I'm going to give this one its own AND logic gate. Then I'm going to connect that to its 2 corresponding gyros. The green makes it go down. Okay, and once I've got that done, now these 2 distance sensors will change its direction. Then I'm going to do the same with this distance sensor, work out where it's pointing. Then I'm going to give it its own AND logic gate. The thing with this one though, is that it's pointing upwards, so you're going to change this AND logic gate's output to -1, and then put it into these gyros. This now means that when this one is pointing upwards, when activated, it sends the missile upwards. And then I'm just going to do this with the final distance sensor, which goes to the right side of my screen, by giving it its own AND logic gate. Then this AND logic gate is just going to go into these two gyros, and also going to be in the minuses. Now, another key thing is that once we've now got all of the programming in the actual missile done, we're still going to want to make sure it's as effective as possible. So there's a few settings you're going to need to turn on the gyros, which is maximum strength on all of the gyros. This is very important because for the most part, with the distance sensors being set to 50 meters, they do not have a lot of range, meaning that once it detects something, you want it to instantly snap into its direction. But the issue with it instantly snapping into the direction is that the actual speed and velocity of the missile is going in a different direction. That's why you want to have the quantum rudders on maximum strength, and you want it to have no turn rate for the sharpness of steering. Now, by now you've probably noticed that I haven't done anything to do with like explosions or a proximity fuse, and for the reason for this is just because I'm trying to keep this simple. But what you can do is that you can just remove one of these gyros, fill it in with maybe a distance sensor, some explosives. But for now in this video, I'm just going to give and do the basics behind like the actual guidance of the missile, because that's what people find the most difficult in this game for the most part. Now, when it actually comes to setting up the missile onto a plane, there is more or less a method to doing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first get it like positioned beneath the wing of my build, and I'm just going to get out some detachable blocks. Depending on the situation, it might be necessary to use a piston to launch it better, so that it doesn't actually hit like the underbelly of your plane or anything. But that just really depends on the situation. Once you've got the detachable blocks connected, just map them to whatever control you want to deploy them. I'm just going to use right click for this demonstration. Now, what you might think is that while still attached to this plane, it'll still be moving, like jostling about and deploying itself. Now, the way to stop this is that you're just going to want to put like a NOR logic gate on your plane, and then connect that NOR logic gate to the NOR logic gate on the missile. This now means that when deployed, the missile does absolutely nothing, because the NOR logic gate essentially nullifies the effect of the missile until it's deployed. Now, the next step with attaching the missile and using it is that first of all, you're going to want to unbind everything on the missile, or this will just cause massive problems for you while just piloting the plane and stuff and like trying to line it up, because you've just got a big massive bunch of mass on the right or left side of your plane. Or if you want to, you can duplicate them, but just make sure the logic doesn't intertwine with each other, or that can cause problems too. Okay, so a quick thing I forgot to mention as well is that make sure the NOR logic gate is plugged into the space thrusters, so it actually has power in flight. I might have forgotten to mention that, and that is partly my fault. So now that I've completed the build, I've just doubled it up on both sides of the plane to make it easier to fly. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a quick demonstration on how they work by just deploying two into that pylon, and you see how it curves right into it. It's a bit jaggedy and a bit rigid, but for the most part it does the job and it works, and they tend to work better on moving targets, but I mean, I guess that's just how the missile goes. So before I test it on actual players, I've quickly swapped it over to a more capable build, and what I'm also just going to do is I'm going to attach some kinetic weapons onto the front of it, aka just steering hinges. Nothing special, but I'm just going to do this so you can see like the damage more clearly of the actual weapon. Okay, so now that I'm on just a public server with my friend to show you and just give you some clips of these missiles working, I've also, if you want to, you can just like add chains of more thrusters if you want to go it faster. I'm just going to show this in a quick demonstration. You just get 2 blocks, you add a flat connector, and you can just slap in another space thruster. Just make sure to connect it to the NOR logic gate, and that's just how you make it go faster. And you can just do the same with gyros or anything, and you can just expand them how you want to expand them. Yeah, so just thank you for watching this far into the video. It completely means a lot to me. And just kind of as a reward for watching this far, I've just got some clips of the missile in action. But yeah, just thank you so much.